So finally we are here. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
So how are you, Nalini? All okay? Better now?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah. The weather has changed, so uh, you
I
know.
think it was viral. I picked from someone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. That's right, right. Here also it's raining today, and so I don't know.
I
Very
wish it rains here also.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. So let us begin. We are already almost 12 minutes late in the class. But then, anyway, let's start and let's see how much we can finish. Then, remaining we'll do in the next class. So, we
Mm.
were doing the third, this one, the third block. And we were actually doing I think the last but one unit. We were doing the women's education and social development, okay, and how the initiatives that were taken in the for the education, how it has helped. We have already spoken that there were a lot of, you know, we. You want to ask something, Nalini? Okay. Right. So that is what we were doing. We were at the end of it as to how different kinds of or how different education, facilities can be provided so that different kinds of people, in our country are able to, take the help, okay, of education. Right. So that is what we will be doing here today. There are a lot of options. Like we know that we have the open school option. We also have open universities, like like the one we are already working. I mean, you have joined this open university. So these all came later, and many other ways of education, formal, informal education, are being provided. Okay. So, where we ended that last class was the point as to what is the new need for new initiatives for more educational institutes. All said and done in our country, when we talk about the number of people we have, the students, the population, we have to understand that our number of schools and colleges and universities are comparatively much less. And that's the reason there is always such a fight, to take admission. Okay, I'm not talking about top colleges or top universities. Otherwise, also, the number of colleges available, the number of educational institutes available, be it the primary, be it the secondary, be it the top. Uh, we are doing the third block. We are almost at the end of it, Shija. Okay, I'll tell you the unit. Give me a minute. We were doing social infrastructure. It's quite a long unit actually. So, yeah, the unit 15. Okay, and unit unit 15 is what we are doing. Okay. So and that is the reason why it has become very important that we have more and more of educational institutes for teaching, training, and need based research. Okay. Now NGOs are also doing a lot of work in this field as well. Okay, the new education policies that have come up, uh, they have, they are always insisting on democratization of the educational institutes functioning. All right, it is important that, fine, I understand that we have a certain uh, formal education system in which we are following the CBSE course, or we are following the UGC norms. Right, we are also following the state board. But at the same time, it is also important to give a little bit of freedom. And that's the reason why many of the schools even today, they have a few options with them. We have the IB, we have the we have the CBSC, right? We have the ICSC. So these are also being adopted, so that some kind of democratization is there, because this kind of thing also helps in women's education. Okay, it is always not necessary that every woman has the opportunity, or every child has the opportunity to get educated in the formal setup. So let us have some kind of an informal education as well. Okay, so it is important to facilitate the interstate, the interregional, and the international trade. Everything is being co-opted, and education must be given in such a way that all these facilities and these things can be done. Like for example, if I am from Bengal, right? And I am in an institute which is in Bengal. Now, if there is a option that I can, study in my, my own mother tongue, right? Then, apart from that, how I can incorporate a system in which that if I get a transfer from my state to another state, then it becomes a problem, isn't it? Because then there I may not be able to get my mother tongue. So can something be done for that also, right? Okay, there is a common language to our country, and we all know Hindi is there, English is there, but there are uh, many people who are coming from a kind of a background where English or Hindi may not be very essential for them. So imparting education in local language also becomes very, very important, right? So people who are going to move out, people who are going to move from one place to another, for them it is important to have English and Hindi as a main language, because that's a common language for the entire country. But those who do not want to leave their place, they want to be there, they are within their village, they may probably never need any other language, right? Now if I try to force them into learning a language which they will not use, it doesn't make sense. In fact, that might be a deterring element for them. Okay, so can we provide them with the education, and can we impart the education with their own uh, language? Okay, how to manage or how to educate an emotionally matured women, teaching children and teaching adults, there is a major difference. Even in adults, teaching a male and a teaching a female might be different, because their need for education will also differ according to the way they are living their life. So all these things need to be very, very they need to be incorporated, they need to be thought about. Okay, that need based education. Okay, so that is something which is very important, right? Then they have talked about some experiences of NGOs, NGOs who run open schools, right? For example, the rehabilitation for street children. Okay, child who are working. Okay, children who belong to the prostitutes. Okay, they have a very different life, isn't it? you know it is difficult for them to enter into a formal system. Okay, in fact, I had attended once in fact, I have twice attended a seminar, in Delhi, and that was about the street children. Okay, some of the NGOs sometimes do not understand, which I personally have observed, because they always insist that we have to. Um, okay, Karthik, I don't know what to do. Uh, I don't know what to do. This fellow whom, and now I don't know who has done the thing. I just inform so many.
That's why I've written in the message so that if the person is there, they can check
Yeah,
out.
actually, the person who is in charge, he is on leave, na. So now he has. assign the work to somebody whom I don't know. So I will just
Mm-hmm.
send a message to this same person. I hope he reads it.
Okay. Ma'am, he has joined.
He has joined. Oh, okay, okay, all right, fine.
Hi, ma'am. Yeah, I
Okay, yeah,
joined. So,
okay. Welcome, Karthik. I
thank
just
you.
don't know what to do. Anyway,
Thank you.
so that's what I was saying. The first time I'm waiting outside the class, to taking the permission to enter is really funny. But anyway, but chalo, all kinds of experiences. Okay, so as I was saying, that this one NGOs, who are working with the street children. The street children, as I said, that when I attended the workshop, what I was able to understand was everybody was forcing the fact that every street children should be taken away from the street, they should be put in the formal education system, and then because they have a childhood to live and all that kind of thing, they were constantly talking about it. And when they asked me that you are representing a college, at that time I was in a full time college, and they were saying that, ma'am, what is your opinion? I said that I don't have a problem, I want all the children to live their childhood. They must always, they must get the education that they deserve. Then I said that, have we, but then the point is that have we ever tried to find out as to why these children are on the street? Why are these children, working, in small hotels, or maybe in, they are, they are, they're polishing boots, and polishing the shoes of other people, or maybe cleaning the car. All these children, you say that they are the street children, I agree, and we want them to be in the school. Now, first of all, we need to find out what is the reason that they are in this situation. Secondly, if we move them away from whatever money they are earning, by whatever little work they are doing, is it going to be okay? Because the point is, there might be families where these children are working because if they do not work, they will not be able to eat. So, are we taking the guarantee that we will take them away from the street, make sure that they don't work? I'm against child labor, no doubt. But what are we doing? We are eradicating the child labor, or we are eradicating the child itself? Because agar usko khane ko nahi milega, so then what next, right? Secondly, just when we talk about giving them formal education, okay, after they finish their 10th grade and their 12th grade, maybe, let us hope that they complete their 10th grade, if not 12th. After that, what will they do? uh, does getting a 10th grade certificate or even an 8th class certificate, are they able to get a work, some kind of work, because they have to eat, no? So uh, does the government, does the NGO takes the guarantee that after finishing the formal schooling, this child will be better off? you know if not, then what should be done, राइट? हमने उसको जूता पॉलिश करने से हटा लिया, बोला कि नो, ये आपका काम नहीं है, पढ़ाई करो, यू स्टडी, एंड देन यू हैव अ बेटर लाइफ. आफ्टर दैट, इज देयर अ बेटर लाइफ? Can we guarantee that? So we need to also look at these, right? So can we give them a different kind of an education which will make them and have, so that they, which will equip them with some kind of skill where they can become a better off person? Okay, so these are things which needs to be taken care of. And many NGOs, they have started school, an informal kind of a school for such children, that okay, in the morning they are working for a few hours, can we have them in a evening class, okay, so that they are earning also, because they have to, because they don't have a choice, and they are also studying. So can that kind of options be made available to them? Okay, so they are, we have to understand that they are the special need children. They are different from the children who are going to a formal school. So what should be imparted, what kind of education should be imparted to them, so that is also uh, necessary, right? The role of panchayati raj institution in promotion of women's education. As we know, when we opted for the panchayati raj system, the panchayats have been given, that's a way of decentralizing the power, and they have been able to work in a very different way, and they have been able to help the women in the villages to get educated, right? So that also is very important. The Department of Women and Child Development also gives cash assistance, you know to the voluntary agencies, to colleges. If as a college somebody starts working in kind of teaching some students, so they can apply for that kind of fund. Maybe they can buy books, or pencils or pens, for the children, right? So this kind of is important. Functional literacy to handle the day to day survival, okay, of women in the society. They should be able to know, read their name, they should be able to read, maybe the letter which comes to them. They should be able to maybe read the bus, the numbers, the day to day handling of cash, whatever little bit of cash. These kind of things can be, they should be able to read the signboards, okay. So that kind of an adult education which help them to uh, be there for their day-to-day work. Educational needs for environmental refugees, okay, was also something which is there. As I told you, there are many major projects uh, which actually displaces people from where they are, like because there is a land acquisition that goes on for highways, for large dams. So when they move from one place to another, they have to face a lot of challenges. The first and the most important challenge that they face is the economic challenge. जो वो कर रहे थे, now they are not able to do it. They are in a new place, the place is absolutely new to them, nothing is ready there probably. So for them, the first thing is how to get the their the work that will help them to get money. So these are things which the NGOs also need to figure out, and so then how they can be educated, right? So these are there. Then education and the health of girl child is also something which is a matter of concern, okay. And the girl child actually became a very important you know uh, important thought, or important subject, just after independence, because slowly it was seen that there is a boy preference, and then because of that the male child preference, and there was a mismatch when it comes to the sex ratio. As I told you, we recently the sex ratio is positive. All the SADC countries also, they started thinking about how to save the girl child. So it was important that how we could help the health of a girl child, because that also was a matter of concern. Okay, not just when the child is very young. Of course, at that time there is like the problem of nutrition, and all these things that needs to be taken care of. Adolescent girls are at risk of certain health issues, right? So how they can be uh, motivated to adopt better hygiene, and how how they can be uh, given the education, the sex education. Sex as a word has been always been a taboo, right, in these countries. So it is important to talk openly about it. It is important to educate the child, right? And definitely, irrespective of whether it is a girl child or male child, it has to be given to everyone. And for the girl child, because of her own protection, it is even more important. Then, yes, there were certain measures that were taken. So we have juvenile justice. We have integrated child development scheme. Then childline, childline services. Right? Yes, Nalini.
Ma'am, can you give me, like, I don't know, if I missed example of an environmental refugee in India. Like abroad, I know there is a Katuma project for Nigerian children who
Hmm.
have been displaced. So I'm associated with it. I know that. But in
Yes.
India,
So
I just don't know.
yeah, so environmental thing, there is, like as I said, it can be, like in India also, when there were the Tehri Dam that was made, right? So a lot of there was a lot of talk about it, and I remember my brother being an architect. He was a part of the Tehri project, and he was telling me that there was a lot of difficulties, and they were also able to understand. Okay, because when you displace people, right, you have to understand कि आप उनको कहाँ displace कर रहे हो. Because if you display, they see, when I am settled in a place, I have my source of income from that place. I have a house there, I have my children maybe going to the school, right? But when I am displaced to a completely different situation, then all these things undergo a change. My source of earning goes, right. I understand that the government will give them some money, but that money may not be enough. They have to rebuild their life. Okay, so the Tehri Dam project was one which was there. Then a lot of displacement can happen because of a land becoming maybe the forest becoming mm, a protected area. Okay, so because we all know that there's a lot of forest degradation that is taking place. Now if it becomes a protected area, then there will be certain rules and regulations which the people who are living nearby or who are living in the forest, they have to follow. Now if they are asked to leave that place, okay, so that can also be one of the environmental refugees. Okay, so these are the ones. Okay, got it. Yeah. So that is there. Then childline services, as I said, it's a 24-hour services where you can you can think about it. I mean, you can just give them a call and tell them that this is a problem. If you see a child in distress, if you see a child being mistreated, then uh, one can okay do these call this helpline, and there will be NGOs, hospitals, they are always ready to help them. Then special emphasis on girls education. We had a Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan that is there in our country, that is basically for them. And the national nutrition mission is there, national commission for children is there, campaign against girl child. Then of course special schemes to target the quality of life. So there have been a lot of things, policy for HIV patients, and so that is there. Somewhere or the other, a girl child is always considered as a liability, in many families, because kahin na kahin, people feel that if there is a girl child, obviously she is not going to stay there, she will be going to somebody else's house, and then you have to spend money, and you have to also spend money on the marriage, and also that sometimes becomes very difficult. So we need to also convince and maybe sensitize the parents, okay, that if you educate a girl child properly, if you give them all the opportunities that every child needs to get, then there is no problem, and the girl child can also become an asset. So it is not that they are the liabilities. Okay, so that has to be then. As far as girl child, I mean total girl child in India today, there are about 186 million illiterate. Okay, it has gone down. There was initially, there was a something like 200 million. The latest data says that there are about 186 million illiterate women, and total number of illiterate people in India, as far as the current record is concerned, it is 287. Okay, so can you imagine that out of 287 million, 186 million are women illiterate. Okay, so the number of illiterate men and women, there is a major difference. Okay, so the dropout rate has gone down. Definitely boys dropout rate has always been a little less. uh, Girls dropout rate has been more. But when the girl crosses the primary and upper primary and goes into secondary, then it is observed that the in the secondary section, the dropout rate of girls are less as compared to the dropout rate of boys, marginally, of course. And the reason for that is very simple. Once the boy child become a little older, instead of going to the school, then he works as a labor. Okay, so then he may not complete the secondary education at all, and that's the reason there is a marginal difference. But the male child, it seems that they leave the secondary education more as compared to the girls. Okay, but then, as I said, the upper primary section and the primary, the girl child's dropout rate is found to be more. Okay, so that again needs to be taken care of. Then we have to also think about the health profile of the girls in India. The health challenges, of the girl child covers a lot of things. Mortality, morbidity, the nutritional status. Okay, the reproductive health. Okay, so all these things. I mean, they are equally important for the boy child as well. But the problem with our country is that the girl child is is kind of a neglected one. Okay, so therefore they face more health challenges as compared to the male child. So that has to be again taken into consideration. Then it is basically, it all depends on the socio-economic status of the household, right? If the socio-economic status are good, then usually both the children, or all the children get equal food, equal nutrition. But if one has to choose, okay, if one is not very economically or socially well off, okay, then such families usually, they have if they have to choose whom to give the best part of the food, the male members of the family get the advantage, and then it starts affecting the health of a girl child, right? And problem ye hai ki the girl child, when she grows up, she has to go for the reproductive work. So when they are going to bear children, that makes a lot of change in their health. Okay, so that is something where it is important, and they lose calcium calcium from their body when they are lactating. There's a lot of other hormonal issues. So we have to understand that in order to combat those changes in a women's life, for the reproductive role that they play, it is important that their nutrition is taken care of. Okay, so the sex ratio we have already discussed. The early childhood care has to be taken into consideration. Malnutrition also is found a lot as far as the girl child is concerned. Pregnant girls and young mothers, this is another problem that has to be taken care of. Young girls, young mothers, if even in our country, even after the government's ban on child marriages, many places, many in many states, in villages, in remote areas, uh, child marriages are still taking place. Okay, Rajasthan is a very big example of that. There, a lot of NGOs are working. The government is also working, but uh, in the name of custom and the culture, girls get married at a very young age. Okay, now when they get married, obviously they will bear child. Their body may not be prepared for it. Okay, like, okay, biologically yes, but strength wise and all, it creates a problem for them. So first and foremost, it has to be taken care of that child marriages should be truly banned and not done. But then where it is done, and if the if the girl becomes pregnant, then uh, special care has to be taken for that person, right? For that girl, for that young mother, right? So that has to be, again, one of the matter of concern. Then violence against girls. Okay, we all know what is happening. I mean, we keep hearing the news of at least uh, almost every day there is some case or the other. I mean, they are recorded case. The unrecorded case, we are not even aware what the numbers are. But then, because of these areas, these this very very sensitive issue, uh, the government, I mean, of course there are many rules and regulations, there are many laws against it. But again, that same thing happens, that how much is being followed. But yes, the government is constantly trying to do something. Then uh, the HIV and AIDS issue, the sexually transmitted disease, as it is called, STD, in with the girls, that has to be again handled. So these are matter of concerns. Then the girl child labors, right? Lot of young children, they are working. They are working in factories. They are also some working, I mean, very formal factories will obviously not take them, but small small factories, बिंदी बनाने की फैक्ट्री, या जो छोटे छोटे जो होते हैं बीड़ी बनाने की, जहाँ पे लॉट ऑफ विमेन वर्कर्स आर वर्किंग देयर along with the young girls. देन अगरबत्ती बनाने की जो फैक्ट्रीज है, वहां पे यूज होता है. तो एंड लॉट ऑफ यंग चिल्ड्रन वर्क at people's home, isn't it? So young girls who are they are put to work, and they're doing all kinds of housework and everything. So uh, that again needs to be addressed, right? Because they are going to create a lot of problem, right? The- uh, then of course the home and the work condition also sometimes have an impact on the women's health. Okay, what kind of place is, I'm not talking about only the child work, I'm talking about otherwise also. What kind of home a woman has, right? If it is spacious enough, if the kitchen is well equipped, because a lot of time women spends in the kitchen, right? So what is the kind of facilities that are provided there, right? In villages, in many women are still using the firewoods, right? And they are inhaling a lot of the gases that are coming out of it, and the smoke that is there, and that is having a very bad impact in many villages, because the sanitation facilities are not well. The As I said, water management. So I mean, we are very lucky that we open the tap and we get the water. But there are n number of villages, especially in Gujarat and Rajasthan, where people have to walk miles, the women, and they walk miles, they carry the water on their head, and maybe two three things they are carrying together. That is having an impact on their health. Okay, for not just the walking but carrying the load also. Okay, So what kind of environment they are working, not just at home but also in the factories that they are working in. Are there, is the condition hygienic? Are there toilets available for the women workers, right? What kind of place, is it very clean? The sanitation and all these things somewhere or the other has an impact, on them, right? So that is there. Then women and mental health, this is a very big challenge, because mental health in itself is a big challenge as far as our country is concerned. In many countries, actually, not just in our country, uh, we don't talk about mental health at all. In the past few years, a lot of discussion is being uh, you know uh, done on this. Lot of debates are taking place, that mental health is a very important thing that we have to discuss, right? Just as we have physical health issues, we go to a doctor. We have mental health issues, we need to go to a psychiatrist, right? But वो जो एक सोशल एक टैबू हो जाता है ना, कि मेंटल हेल्थ मतलब द फर्स्ट थिंग, अगर किसी को मेंटल इशू है तो इसका मतलब वो पागल है, तो द वे वी पुट अ ब्रांड on mental health, that becomes a problem. Okay, people are not open about it, छुपाते हैं लोग, घर के अंदर बंद करके रख देंगे, या that kind of thing that they will do. So that has to be discussed. It is very important to discuss about mental health issues, right? And of course, women, because already their position is different in the overall system. Women डू नॉट कम आउट ऑफ, आई मीन उनका जो फिजिकल हेल्थ है उसको लेके इतने चैलेंजेस हो जाते हैं दैट दे डोंट गेट एक्सेस टू डॉक्टर्स एंड हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज. मेंटल हेल्थ को तो बिल्कुल ही देखा ही नहीं जाएगा, सोचा ही नहीं जाएगा कि दैट इज ऑल्सो अ मेजर इशू with the women. Okay, so that again is a problem. What kind of facilities are available? We need more women doctors. It's fine, we understand women may not be very comfortable speaking to a male doctor, doesn't matter, but we need more and more women medical practitioners, so that women get direct help from them. Then of course, so these are the areas which needs to be taken care of, right? We There are the role of women in uh, you know different kind of environmental projects, women's participation in saving the nature, right? uh, and how more and more women can be involved, okay, so that a good decision can be taken, right? So this is what we have in this particular unit. Okay, and yeah, so we are done with the third book of this, the third block of it. Now the fourth block of MGS-02, and that is development and social justice. Okay, so we need to talk about what is social justice. We need to talk about what is the gender justice. Okay, and then this particular block will have social justice, gender justice in one unit. We also have the negative impact of globalization on social justice. Then we have gender marginalization and exclusion as one unit. The other unit is law as an instrument of empowerment and disempowerment, and also the form and extent of gender based violence. Okay, so these are what we are going to cover in the block 4. Okay, so what is what is social justice, isn't it? uh, Obviously, in a social science subject, when we talk about society, we talk about the notion of social justice. And since a long time it is there, from the ancient times it is there. But when as to what kind of life a woman is going to follow, like the social justice. If you look at it as a broader sense, it will talk about allocation of both material as well as moral advantage of the social life. So irrespective of the gender, everything should be you know allocated in a justified way. Okay, irrespective of the gender, a man and a woman, they should be able to get access to all kinds of facilities, all kind of opportunities, right? Access to all the basic amenities of life, isn't it? And if they're getting it, then only we talk about. So then when we say that it is a socially justified environment. Okay, we all know that Indian Constitution, we have it in the preamble, we have the directive principle that it is a promise, or which holds a promise of justice for social, economic, and political justice to everyone, isn't it? Right. But uh, so that means, irrespective of the gender, class, or anything, socially everybody is same, right? Equal when it comes to economic terms. They should have equal opportunities. When it talks about political environment, again, men and women should have equal opportunity, isn't it? So when these equal opportunities are there for everyone, and they are able to access the opportunity, providing opportunity may not be enough. How you are able to access the opportunity is also, and utilize it, is also important. So when everybody is able to do that, we say that it is a social justice, right? We all know that there are social barriers. We have discriminations, we have prejudice, and these are based on gender, caste, language, religion, and ethnicity. Okay, and it is not just in India, all over the world it is there, right? So uh, the development of social justice would mean that all these barriers need to be overcome. Okay, so uh, the entire world, everybody should overcome these kind of barriers, the barriers of caste, the barrier of gender, the barrier of language, religion, everything. And then the path of development can only come up when you break these barriers and make everybody, make everything accessible to the people, right? So, and that's not very easy, isn't it? So social justice primarily is a problem of discovering the right course of action. Now, what action should be taken so that these barriers can be discriminated? Then only social justice can be there. Okay, not again, not a very easy thing that can happen. So social justice is related to determining some kind of a logical criteria, okay, for allocation of goods, services, opportunities, benefits, power, honor, and it is also about obligation of the society uh, during the scarcity situation. Okay, if there is a scarcity, if there is a problem, if there is some kind of a um, mm, uh, some sudden um, some sudden happening, earthquake आया, या कोई और calamity आया, कोई man made calamity हुआ, how these things will be, even and during that time, how one is able to face it. Okay, so there have been different approaches, as to how a path can be taken out for social justice. Okay, so one is the liberal approach. Now, liberal approach basically gives importance to the distribution of resources. Okay, distribution of how the opportunities, how the resources, are being distributed, right, among the various people, okay, or citizens of the country, of any country. That is what is, the liberal approach talks about, okay, as to how the disadvantaged group can be identified and special programs made to them, and already who are in the advantageous position, how they can be managed in a way so that uh, a proper distribution of resources can be done. Okay, right. So that is how it has been taken into account. Dr. Ambedkar also thought about the same thing, right, that those who are economically poor should be given more advantage, isn't it? In our constitution we have, isn't it, we have uh, uh, special programs, if I may use the word, for minorities, for people who are, for the Dalits, for the ST and SCs, for other backward classes, okay, the reservation policy for that matter. Okay, so these are all trying to distribute the already available resources in a more just manner. Okay, so that is what the liberal approach talks about. The socialist approach has a slightly different criteria. For the socialist approach, obviously Marx was one of the person, who kind of heads the thinking of the socialistic thinking. For them, it is important that there is a, because according to Marx, or according to the socialists, the main problem is of class, right? The capitalist class and the working class. Okay, socialists have always been against the capitalistic economy, isn't it? Because according to them, the capitalist has only one aim, and that is to exploit the working class, take advantage of them, give them the subsistence, amount of money, make surplus, and get the maximum profit. Okay, that is the basic approach of socialistic thinkers. So for them, it is important that if you want to have social justice, the economy should be classless. Okay, so there should be nothing like the capitalistic class, or the working class. So who will be taking care of everything? The government. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the state, it is the responsibility of the government to own, or to own the resources. Okay, so be it factories, be it buildings, be it the all the natural resources, everything will should be in the hands of the government, because it is the government who can justify the distribution. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that there is nothing like rich class, poor class, middle class. Everybody should be treated equally. So therefore, there should be a classless society. Okay, obviously, it is not something which is very easy to be done, and socialistic economy has its own problem, right? And that is the reason there have been a lot of criticism. So I'm not going into details of that, but then I'm just giving you the various approaches. Okay, then there was a another approach. Obviously, when one approach comes, there are criticism, other approaches also develop. So another third approach is known as uh, subaltern approach. Right, now this approach considers that any group in the society which has been relegated to a subordinate position because of whatever reason, gender or whatever, it could be language, it could be culture, any reasons because of which they have been allocated or they have been given a subordinate position, they should be in the category of subaltern. Okay, now subaltern group, or such groups, are more or less placed in the subordinate position because of the constraints. Okay, so now the subordinate position, because of the social structure, okay, needs to be handled. Okay, so they are not talking about allocation, but they are only talking about social justice for the deprived and the disadvantaged people, right? So one is distributive, other one is the socialistic, which talks about classless society, um, everything in the government's hand. The third approach talks about the subordinate group, that only the subordinate group needs to be taken special care of. And then comes the feminist approach. Now the feminist approach basically talks about the women, okay, that the women are the disadvantaged group, and it is because of the social arrangement. Okay, because of the patriarchy status of an economy, of a country, or of the society primarily, the women is always regarded as unequal to man. Okay, so it is the patriarchy they are targeting. Okay, so for them, because of the patriarchy, men possesses everything. Okay, so they get the opportunities, they get all the benefits, they get the access, to various assets and finance and everything. And therefore it is important that special measures should be done to provide social justice to the women, because they are the disadvantaged group, right? So these are the four different type of approaches which talks about social justice, and through what are the problems and how the social justice can be given, right? Now gender justice, uh, you know there are primarily three conceptions of gender justice. Okay, and they can be kind of understood as to what is the meaning and how, what are the various dimensions of it. So one is the gender justice as entitlement and choice. Okay, again, the main root of this concept, gender justice and entitlement, is in the in the liberal feminist, political philosophy. Okay, where uh, it is about the oppression of the women themselves. Okay, that they are the oppressed class, right? And therefore they do not get the entitlement, they also do not have choices, right? So that is the reason, obviously, what one needs to do is that if they have to, irrespective of whatever the economic system is, be it capitalistic, be it socialistic, it doesn't matter. Liberal feminists always believe that the social structure is always such where whatever the economic condition is, the women are the oppressed class, and therefore they are not able to uh, get entitlement and choices, and therefore they do not have capabilities to make themselves better. Okay, because from where do you get the capabilities? You get the capabilities if you have an access to, let us say, assets, you have access to finance, you have access to opportunities to get educated and skill, isn't it? These are your capabilities. uh, the capabilities that a human being can have is through these. आपके पास assets हो, आपके पास पैसा हो, आपके पास skill हो, right? These are the important things which will make you capable, right, to do anything. So because women are unable to have those capabilities, it becomes difficult for them to come out of their situation, and obviously they don't get social justice. Okay, so therefore the requirement that is there is to make them stronger. So capabilities are what people actually have and what they do with it, and therefore increasing the capabilities by providing them entitlement and choices, okay, uh, becomes important. Okay, then another approach was gender justice as absence of discrimination. Here we are talking about choices and capabilities. In the next one, we are talking about absence of discrimination. So here And it came as the convention in 1999. As you know, we have already talked about CEDAW, isn't it? So, Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, right? So, CEDAW was based on this concept or this kind of a philosophy which says that gender justice can only happen when there is an absence of discrimination. So that is why CEDAW was created, and all those countries who have ratified this, they are the one who are supposed to make sure that all these, in every sector of their economy, CEDAW and the principles of CEDAW must be implemented. Okay, so there should be no gender discrimination in whatever areas, be it agriculture, be it payment, be it the industries, the service sector, or whichever, in school education, college education, medical facilities. So in every walks of life, CEDAW is something, or the principles of CEDAW must be applied. Okay, so the point is that the most common criticism was that making a convention is fine, but whether that is being properly enforced. In many countries who have ratified CEDAW, discrimination is still existing. So it is important to understand that something which we have prepared has to be implemented. Okay, then gender justice as positive right. Now this is a right based approach where they say that it is a conception of gender justice. It has to be based on rights. Okay, gender justice is nothing but the right of a person. So it is about human rights. Okay, so gender justice is about human rights. So all human rights, the legal institutions, the political institution of of the economy and of the country, it is important that uh, gender justice should be given, not just as anything else, but as a right, as a human right. Okay, it has to be recognized by the governance. It has to be recognized by all the other institutions of an economy of a country, right? That we need to understand that there is a power imbalance. Okay, and and that is because of the power imbalance, the women are prevented, okay, to advance forward, to choose what they want to do, to get access to all the facilities that are there. They also don't even get access to their own human rights, right? So therefore, making sure that the women get all the advantages of a human right is important. So it can be the political and civil rights, it can be the socio economic cultural rights, right? So everything has to be provided to them. So the right based approach, uh, again, it was also somewhere or the other considered that it may or may not be possible to do that, because many countries, because of some cultural issues, the human right is being is not being given to the women, right? We have so many countries where women are still not being treated equally, isn't it? Right, so Afghanistan is one of the biggest one of the places, and many other Islamic nations where the women's human rights are not uh, being given to them, right? So therefore, that becomes a problem, that how you're going to solve. Now these are various approaches through which people have discussed about human rights and about social justice, and of course the social rights of the human rights of the women. Now social justice and gender justice. Is there a difference, right? Gender justice obviously is a part of social justice only, right? So I mean, it's about the relationship between men and women. Social justice is for everyone, irrespective of men and women. Gender justice also is about both, but because women become, the vulnerable group, we consider more about the women. Okay, so that is where, and actually, in both the cases, women and men are termed equally. That is why we talk about gender. We are not talking about women justice, right? But because of out of men and women, who is, kind of uh, getting less justice has to be also considered. Okay, so probably more effort should be made towards the gender justice, which will automatically lead to the social justice. Okay, now what is the state of India? Well, we always say that as far as poverty is concerned, uh, most of the poor people in the world, okay, uh, along with India, are the women. Okay, so because of the fact that they do not get access to uh, whatever is required to come out of the poverty. Okay, so high level of, female deprivation. Then there was a declining sex ratio. As I said, very recently only it has become positive. uh, then because of the because of that reason, there was a declining population of women. Today, it is more balanced. Then, very, a lot of inequalities, are very structural and historical also. Right from the history, we have seen inequalities which are based on caste, inequality based on class, ethnicity, and of course gender. Right. So in India, it is there. In world also, we will come across it later on. So high level of inequalities are there, and the state protection and promotion is also called for. Okay, so the women from the marginalized group who are living in the poverty, they must be given certain additional benefits. Okay, because poverty is what, poverty always makes a person voiceless. Okay, it is the poverty where, uh, because of which the bargaining power uh, goes down. Okay, and it happens not just with women but also with men, right? So your bargaining power, when I say bargaining power, means that, see, if I am looking for a job, right, and I'm very poor, so I will not be able to negotiate for a better, better payment, isn't it? Because I am so much in need of that work. Whatever is given to me, I'll take it. Okay, because of the poverty, I am not able to access education and skill, and therefore I become an unskilled person. So when I am unskilled, again, whatever the other person is, the employer is offering, I will take it, because for an unskilled labor to get a job becomes very difficult, because there are n number of unskilled labor waiting to, take the job. Okay, so then I cannot bargain. So whatever the person will offer to me, I will take it, right? So that is what is happening here. And as I said, it has got nothing to do with that if the person is a man or a woman. If he is educated, if he or she is educated, uneducated, if he or she is unskilled, if he or she is poor, their bargaining power will be low. Okay, right? So because of that, they cannot even negotiate to get a better option, and then they remain in poverty forever. बार्गेनिंग वो कर नहीं पा रहे, पेमेंट उनका बढ़ नहीं रहा है, सो पॉवर्टी से निकलेंगे कैसे? Isn't it? Sometimes they don't even get job for maybe for days, isn't it? So that becomes the problem. They just go unnoticed. Okay. They even sometimes, I mean, their remuneration is not considered at all, right? So who is going to fight for them? So that becomes a major issue. Okay, so the vicious circle of poverty, goes on and on. Gender discrimination in Indian family is also there. Okay, as I said that in our country, we still are facing, infanticide, that is happening. There are, initially, even today, in fact, unfortunately, feticide has actually overtaken infanticide. एक समय ये था कि when the girl child was born, the child was killed. Okay, because as I said, women were considered to be yeah, a liability. एंड लेट मी टेल यू, ये पिक्चर की स्टोरी में ही होता है, ऐसा नहीं है। कई बार मुझे बोला जाता था, कभी मैं जब पढ़ाती हूँ तो, कि मैम ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है, दिस इज नॉट हैपनिंग। आई सेड यस, इट इज हैपनिंग, राइट? वी आर अनेबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस बिकॉज वी आर privileged actually, to have a better uh, you know better we are in a better situation, much better situation. But it is happening, it has happened to a lot of people, right? So the children were killed initially when the girl child was killed when she was born, right? Now what is happening is, now feticide is taking place because of the modern technology. Now you can actually figure out whether you are going to have a girl or a boy. Now there, I mean, in spite of the fact that sex determination has been banned, there are a lot of places where sex determination is being done, right? Yes, not openly but otherwise. And the fetus is, destroyed. Okay, so it has, people have become more technically advanced, right? So gender discrimination in the family takes place uh, in different forms. It takes place in form of denial of nourishment, healthcare, education, uh, being pushed into domestic chores. ठीक है, you don't need to go to school, घर के काम करो, आगे चल के ये काम आएगा, that kind of a thought process of the families. Sometimes the marriage related violence is there because वो शायद बहुत कम उम्र में शादी हो जाती है उनकी, and then they, early marriages. Dowry is another a very, uh, big issue. We have so many dowry deaths taking place, and dowry is not something which is coming from some very poor family. उनका तो छोड़ दो, उनके पास तो वैसे ही डावरी नहीं होती है देने के लिए, but dowry has now today become a fashion, and it looks like as if there is a competition going on, as to how much dowry is going to be given to a certain person. And people who are showing off the dowry is actually setting a very wrong example, because then you're actually creating that environment, such an environment where other people's expectation also becomes very high. When they see that, that kind of a marriage has taken place, and so their expectation also increases. Okay, and that creates another problem, and there are so many dowry deaths that are happening. Okay, and I'm not talking about rural India, I'm talking about urban India, I'm talking about even the metro cities like Delhi, Mumbai, all these places. So that is a very very serious thing that happens. Then discrimination in, in family where the wife is and the mother is supposed to be responsible for the entire house. Okay, so their sole responsibility is like, you have to run the family, take care of your children, needs of every member of the household. Okay, less time to take care for themselves. We have seen many women who are not able to take care of themselves because the whole day they are taking care of others. Okay, so these are the discrimination that takes place. Okay, Now what happens is that when such kind of a thing are happening in the family, where the women alone is doing everything, when children see all these things, right? So they also are groomed into that kind of a of person. Okay, after all, children run from their parents. So when the women is constantly working, the the girl child is watching her mother, and she feels that okay, this is what she will have to do. And the male child also is brought up with an idea that the women is supposed to do the entire household work and the men are not supposed to do, right? So being a boy, I will not be doing any housework, but whoever will be my wife will do it. Okay, so when such things happen, then the next generation is also being prepared accordingly. Okay, so that is one discrimination that is there, right? Now eh, what is happening is that if you want to eradicate this kind of an environment or this situation, you need to make certain basic changes, right? Because just by talking to the family will not help, isn't it? You cannot really achieve it by a legislation, because you can make a legislation, but whether the family is going to follow it or not, it depends. Like for example, violence in the family, right? So if uh, a man is beating his wife, right, it is against the law. We have a legislation, isn't it? Domestic violence must be reported, okay, to the police. Now you have made a law. Now whether it is being implemented in the family or not, how do you know? Isn't it? I mean, there are times when the women will not talk about it at all, right? Because she has probably seen her father also beating her mother, so she can take it just कि ये तो होता ही है, तो इसमें क्या है. There are many women who are not even aware that it is a violence, right? So this is what husbands are. They will beat. They are working day and night, and therefore they are doing this, right? They will drink, and therefore they will come and beat, right? So when that kind of a situation develop, legislation or making legislation will not help, right? So if somebody else reports, the wife would say nahi nahi aisa kuch nahi hua hai. So the police, if they come also, they will not be able to do anything, and sometimes the police will also not do anything, right? They will also say घर का मामला है, आपस में निपटाओ, that kind of a thing. Why do we get involved in this? So because of all this legislation or that will not help. So you have to make certain changes, okay? uh, and changes would come only through taking up concrete steps, right? So empowerment, building self confidence of the women, okay, and making sure that a woman is independent. Okay, most of the domestic violence happens because women are not independent. They depend on their husbands, for their economic and social needs. Okay, so because economically वो dependent होते हैं, they do not have any other place to go. Sometimes after the marriage takes place, the women's parents also don't come for their support. Okay, so if they go and complain to their parents also, they would say, see, you have to adjust, because we have given the marriage, we have married you off, we have given so much of dowry, everything has been done, now I we cannot do anything, right? So when she doesn't get a support from her family, she doesn't get a support from, of course, her in-laws family, because she is economically dependent, because she is emotionally dependent, because she is socially dependent, you know then it becomes a problem. So it is important that the person, the women should become empowered, first of all, should be economically independent, okay, right? or at least should be capable of becoming economically independent if the needs come, right? And also must have the self confidence and the spirit, okay, the determination, and to fight the injustice. Okay, so I'm not saying that everything breaking of the family is the only choice, but you have to fight, for the rights. Okay, so that capability have to develop. Now education, we all know that education is actually, the key to equality. Okay, it is the most important thing. It gives justice, and it's a, it has a broad base, of democracy, and everything depends on your education, right? It could be both formal and non-formal education in school, it in the family, various ways through which it should be done, because there is a gender discrimination there also, isn't it? When we have to choose a school, I mean, what kind of school we are choosing for a girl, and what kind of a school we are choosing for boys, that makes a difference. Okay, so we have to understand that, uh, I mean, from the parent side, of course, they should provide them with the best possible education, but sometimes it doesn't happen, right? So why not having non-formal education with the help of maybe, the mass media, right? Uh, we today, though, everybody has mobiles, of course, but you know, radio and television, all right, so they can also contribute a lot to provide non-formal education, especially, all right. And the most important, this is how uh, people, can gain that value, attitude, right? There can be a behavioral pattern, okay, and it should be done for both, for the male child, for the men and the women both, right? Because education is should be imparted to both. I had a very interesting experience once. When I was teaching, we used to, like, because I was a part of the social science in department. We used to impart education about women and about women health, uh, to to the underprivileged group. Okay, so we also had a professor who was in psychology, and there was something where we went and we were educating uh, the people as to why the women who is pregnant should be given some support, you know because people have this idea that what is big deal, having being pregnant. There are thousands and lakhs of women who are giving birth to child, so what is the big deal? So we were sensitizing the people as to why it and how it, why is it important. तो हम लोगों ने एक डिजाइन किया था बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सा, जिसमें हमने कहा कि वी आस्क्ड अ मैन, okay, 2 or 3 men to come. Okay, and we have put pillows on their stomach, and हमने उसको, जैसे एक प्रेग्नेंट लेडी who is expecting a child, और हमने उसको बांध दिया उनके stomach के साथ, and then we told them that you now untie the lace of your shoes. Okay, and then they were like, not able to do it. They're finding it difficult, to bend, right? Or to, so then we were said that, okay, we are giving you this trouser, try and wear it, just sit down and wear it. Now when they were sitting down also, they were finding it difficult. Okay, so then they kind of realized. So it is kind of एक इंटरेस्टिंग एक्सरसाइज किया था उन लोगों के साथ में हमने, एंड हमने कहा कि अब आप सोचो कि यू आर नॉट कैरिंग अ चाइल्ड, यू आर जस्ट पुटिंग अ पिलो, एंड देन you are unable to tie your own shoelaces, you are unable to put your trousers, or open your shoes, Now can you imagine that a woman who is also going through this phase, she is not wearing a pillow, she is actually carrying a child, and now how she is going to face problems of bending, of taking something which is heavy, or like her movements are also a little bit restricted. So because of this reason, so you have to understand as to why it is important to give support to your wife who is pregnant, right? I'm not saying that she will not work, but then certain things need to be done. So what I'm just why I just gave you an example is that these are the ways through which one should be sensitized. Okay, and sensitization is also a part of education. Okay, right? So that non formal education is also required, right? In socio cultural context, we have to understand that in a country like India, we we have a vast variation when it comes to culture, language, the social structure, right? So keeping them in mind, or keeping every religious uh, you know mm, uh, uh, religious things in mind, okay, it is important to impart the education. Okay, equal educational opportunity or skill or qualification is very very important for both men and women. And because women are the disadvantaged group, they must have an access to all levels of education. Okay, and in most of the places, as I said, because of lack of skill, because of lack of education, it becomes difficult for a women to get a better job. Okay, to get a permanent job, and that's the reason their poverty does not, or the situation of poverty does not undergo any change. Education to women will also make them health conscious. Okay, they will understand what is important for their health. Okay, so the intake of food, the nutrition intake, okay, will also improve, right? And that will also help in the long way for the women to become, become more capable of uh, of taking up the responsibility of the reproductive work. Okay, so that is very important. Also, along with the challenges, there is a big challenge of adult education in the country. Those who have been deprived of education in the younger age, right? We can only access them through the adult education. There have been a lot of lot of schemes about adult education. Unfortunately, many of them have not, to some extent they have been successful, but most of them are not, because the way they have been given, or the way the education has been imparted is was not very good. Okay, so that is one problem. So that has to be taken care of. Then we talk about health. Okay, uh, as I said, health is not a one day affair, isn't it? So in India, women are generally, they have a tendency to neglect the health, or their health, right from the beginning. They have been, yes, some extent because of ignorance also, and sometimes not because of ignorance, but because of the way they are brought up. Okay, right, as I said, they are the one who uh, and Indian women's food habit, or rather the eating habits and everything, are very different from the habits that the West, the women in West take up, right? So and the overall well-being is obviously affected. Their situation is also quite different. Their, as I said, their dietary habit, the living standard, the lifestyle that they follow, and of course there are environmental things also which affect them. So the way they think about it, that care, nutrition, all these things are, women usually do it for others, okay, and not for themselves. That is a major problem. Okay, they will cook, and they will make sure that the entire family has eaten. They will think about their own eating at a very later stage. Okay, many families where it is a tradition that the women of the house will eat at the end. you know First the children and the elderly person and the male members, they will all eat, and then later on in the end the women is going to have food. And when that happens, sometimes either it is the timings are very bad. Instead of having a meal on time, they take it very late, and obviously everything becomes very late. And then finally, it in a long run, it will not have an impact immediately, but it will have in a long run it creates a problem. Okay. And of course health is also associated with poverty, with illiteracy, with the kind of background, the rural background, the caste structure. uh, it is also there with your status, with your social status. Like for example, uh, widows are a lot of times much neglected. Okay. Not in every family, as I said, but in many families, if they have been deserted by their husband, right, somewhere or the other they lose the status. Okay. A social status, and because of that, again, their deprivation takes place. Disability is another problem. A disabled person anyway faces certain negligence from the family, and if the disabled person is a woman, then her deprivation is doubly problematic. uh, if being a single person also, uh, sometimes if a woman is married but is childless, so the kind of uh, treatment that they get from the family and the kind of treatment that they get from the society also affects their health, be it physical as well as their mental, okay, health. So these are very issues that needs to be because as I said, we are talking about the discrimination. So these are the discrimination that the women might be facing, right? Um then as I said, that the levels, it has been seen that if the literacy rate is high in women, okay, uh, they also show a very high rate of maternal mortality. Okay. Rather, I mean, when I'm talking about the areas of the country where the literacy, female literacy is low, then they have a very very high rate, and the same area will show a very high rate of maternal mortality, infant mortality, birth rate, high birth rate, and also female suicide, dowry deaths, right? So somewhere or the other, it is health is very closely connected with literacy, with education. Okay. So a woman who is educated can easily fight against these things because they are aware. Okay. So they will take care of their health, right? They know what to do when they are pregnant. They know how to fight the dowry issues and not just go and commit suicide. Okay. So that helps them, right? Then so efforts will have to be made, okay, in sensitizing the in gender sensitization, right? uh, Healthcare and development, not just the women needs to be educated and sensitized. It is important that the healthcare providers also need to be sensitized. Okay. So they have should know, the doctors should know how to handle the women, okay, women patient in what kind of a situation, not just medically but also emotionally. Then comes to employment. Yeah, we have time. Employment is another. There is a sexual division of labor, as you know, in the society also in the industries. Okay, we have a clear demarcation of what is, which are men's work and which are women's work. Okay. So it is not happening only in the family, it is happening in the industries, in the offices, in the companies. So there also, somewhere or the other, they have this division of men and women work, and this especially happens in the lower level. In the higher level, it doesn't. So if a highly qualified woman is there, she is not going to compromise, isn't it? Because she will, you know, set her own rules because she knows, right? But at a lower level, you know, when women are working, they are, first of all, they lack skill. So they know that whatever they are getting, it is okay, and I will just do it, right? But at a higher level, it becomes a it becomes impossible. So lower level mein, this is a very very you know, major issue that happens, you know, the horizontal segregation. uh, we have the very vertical segregation of work, okay, right? So these kind of segregation of work and employment is always there, right? And those who are employed in organized sector, child care services becomes a very difficult thing to get. Even in bigger organizations, very few organizations are sensitive enough to provide crutches, to provide the child care facilities, okay. And then the women sometimes even tend to lose the job, okay, because they have to take a decision, you know, whether she would take care of the home and the child, or she will come to the office. And now if the child care services are provided by the office, they can maintain both, right? But very few organizations do that, okay. Then of course, women's employment is also affected by the amount of housework that they have to do. It is not only just cooking and all that, it is also, as I said, you know, to collect fuel, to collect water, you know, to provide various services, you know. So that also takes up a lot of their time, and that is the reason why women, especially in the rural areas, they are not able to work, you know, in a full time situation, okay, because they know, because they have to divide their time accordingly, okay. So that takes a substantial part of their time. Then in an informal sector, obviously, women in many countries, both in terms of the number of women engaged, and in informal sector, there is a huge uh, people, you know, women working. So street vending and, you know, small small uh, home based work that the women are doing, right? And unfortunately, their contribution is always underestimated, right? Because it is difficult to estimate, right? So that is it. And as I said, 80% of the women in the unorganized sector economy are actually earning very low uh, you know uh, income, and they are working for more hours, and they do not have any paid leave, they do not have the medical facilities or insurance, and definitely no pension. So that becomes a problem for them. And the main reason for them is that uh, they do not have the required skill, you know, and do not have then access to education. So this is another way area where one needs to think about. Then we come to violence. Okay, we all know that violence against women are always very is something which needs attention. Violence in various ways, you know, sexual violence, physical violence, you know, beating and all that comes as physical violence. And sexual violence, we all know it's about the uh, rape and, you know, other things which involves. And usually women are harassed not just in the workplace, they are harassed at home also, right? And uh, whenever there is a calamity, be it natural or be it man-made, we will find women who are very, prone to be sexually and face sexual violence, okay. So that is a very important thing where unfortunately in the country we also see women from the lower class structure that we have in the country, they face a lot of problem. Okay. Yes, definitely. Emotional violence is also there. Okay, and that can actually lead to a lot of mental issues as well, right? And which it is not usually very visible, and therefore people don't give it so much of importance. So that is there. Health personals need to be trained to handle people who are, when they deal with uh, women who have faced violence. Unfortunately, there is a lack of sensitivity. Okay. uh, the police department also, a lot of work is being done. The police department are not in the higher level, higher level pe thoda alag sensitization hota hai. It is the lower level where the police force, or the medical practitioners, or the healthcare providers, the way they talk to people who, or to women who are, who have faced this, uh, faced violence, is very critical. Okay, so one needs to, there is a lot of sensitization that is required. Then of course, gender, next topic that you have to understand is gender, human right, and role of governance. Okay, we all know that human right is the right of every human. Okay, of equality, of similar treatment, similar position, dignity, right? That is very, very important for every human being. Obviously it applies to gender, irrespective of the difference in class, creed, or anything, right? But it is also need to be understood that this can be done only with a strong governance. Okay, so just by making, as I said, legislation is not going to be enough, right? How it is implemented is also very, very important. Okay, so the major challenge is actually there only, right, as to how one can implement it. So proper, there's a lot of campaigning takes place, isn't it? Of political empowerment, and of reserving seats, and how women have become very, have become ambitious. All this thing is fine, reservation for women, these are there. But the problem is that it is important for the men also to understand that women are their equal counterpart. Okay, so sensitization has to be done from for to both of them. The women needs to know their right, the men needs to know their right as well as the fact that they should understand the equality factor. Okay, because otherwise sometimes it happens that a woman who is working in the same position is looked at by men in a very, very different way. They joke around, they will use languages which are very improper kind of language. They are sometimes, women are subjected to all kinds of rumor, right? Their character assassination that takes place. Okay, somewhere or the, way harass them so that they will themselves, leave the work and go. So when those kind of things are there, it is essential that the governance should be, should be able to, again, as I said, the only thing that can help this situation is to sensitize, okay, as to how these things can be, done, and how men and women are equal partners. Okay, and therefore they should be able to work together. And even in the same position, a man, also the fact that a man should, because when a man and women are working together, somewhere or the other the power relation comes to work. Okay. If a man is brought up with the idea that he is superior to the women, obviously it will affect the work environment also, because there, if they are working at the same level, he may or may not be able to accept the equality. And if due to some reason the women is working at a higher position, then a lot of men find it difficult to take orders, or being directed by a women. Okay, so it is important to understand that there's a power relationship working here, and therefore a proper sensitization and induction needs to be done, right? So human development and gender justice is the next topic, right? So do we have time? Yeah, we have. So the idea of the modern industrial, nation state, scientific world, it is all closely associated with the development. Okay, the development of the country, the development of the human being, right? And the human development also is affected by the gender justice. Okay, so there have been like for example, the development of a country, the development process that takes place, like for example, green revolution. Okay, when green revolution took place, uh, it created, no doubt, it created a lot of positive effects, like the positive effect where that we became independent, self independent, as far as our uh, food grain production is concerned, right? But it also created issues like people moving from uh, food grain to cash crop. Okay, it also resulted in mechanization of um, of the agricultural process, right? It created a very big disparity between the rich farmer and the marginal farmers and the poor farmers. Okay, and women are either working as agricultural labor, or they are working as, you know the poor farmers having a very small piece of land for themselves, and subsistence farming कर रहे हैं अपने घर के अंदर, and that is where they are doing. So the amount, so that because of that distinction, the poverty level in for the poor farmers, actually the situation became worse for them. Okay, they because they were not able to, obviously, no, there was no competition, isn't it, between with the larger farmers. Many of the poor farmers, they actually lost their land because they were not able to survive. Okay, so that kind of a situation, or that kind of a development process, on one hand it is showing a very good development. On the other hand, the the gender justice, or the human justice is getting lost. Okay, so how to handle such situation, as to how one can solve, right? So that needs to be taken care of. Then when in villages, when men started earning a little more, they started going in for, um, for drinking, right? Drinking all has always resulted in, violence for the wife, for the children also. Okay, so having money is fine, but how they are using the money is, another issue, right? So this is what you have in this 16 unit. We'll meet on Friday, and we will try and finish this one, so that we can this book, I hope we'll be able to do it. We will do the next unit, which is negative impact of globalization on social uh, justice. Okay, right? So we will be doing that, okay, in the next this one. Okay, right? So okay, so things are just go through it. If you think there is something that you want to discuss, as I said, keep thinking about it and putting down those points, and then we can discuss as one of the classes. Okay, right? Okay, fine. Nalini, Shrisha, thank you. Shrija, so thank you for joining, and I'll meet you on Friday then. Okay, right? Sorry. Uh, unmute your mic. Yeah.
Yogita is one of the students, and she called me yesterday
Okay.
that she is not able to attend classes because she has got the appointment as an assistant professor.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Good, good,
But
good. Wow.
she wants to do well. So she
Hmm.
wanted to know what all has been discussed and what to do.
So,
So, ma'am, will Uma ma'am take a class regarding internship and thesis, or we have to start now?
no, see, I mean, like, if you can go through whatever you have, if you have you seen the booklet, have you gone through it? Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So, if you have gone through the booklet, of course, ma'am will definitely give you some, inputs on it, obviously. But what
Hmm.
you can do is that you can just go through the thing and you can take a decision what you want to do, isn't it? So if
Yes, ma'am.
you are doing an internship, as you said, you need to, I think I read your message that you are
Yes, ma'am.
planning to go to an organization, and then to first go to the organization and find out, what you can do. Then you can always pre-plan and you can post your organizational detail. You can mail it to Uma madam, right?
Okay.
Then she can go through and she can give you a thumbs up on it,
Feedback.
and then you can start. No doubt about it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
right? Then
Sure,
do
ma'am.
that.
Thank
No
you so
issues.
much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you.